Alright, so the hype is real on this one. Before we get started, I do want to thank the sponsor of this video. This video is brought to you by NordVPN. NordVPN is a VPN service that protects you, your accounts, and your data from the ever-prying eyes and the spies of the internet. In this modern-day world where personal information is a valuable commodity and even a currency, it is ever more important to protect you and your personal information. Thus, I bring this to you. And since we're all movie buffs and TV show fans here, NordVPN allows you to watch your favorite content even if you're abroad, changing your virtual location with one click. You can choose between over 5,100 servers in 60 countries, so option. Yeah, could have used that service to entertain myself, said the entire McAllister family. So click the link below, go to nordvpn.com/Jahns, enter coupon code Jahns to get yourself a 2-year plan at 73% off, and even get yourself an extra month for free, cause 'tis the season. And thank you once again to NordVPN for sponsoring this video. I do appreciate it. And now, no messing around, here we go. And do not go into the comment section. What are you doing? You know people have already seen the movie. They're commenting spoilers right now, having their friends' accounts or their phantom accounts give those comments thumbs up so it bumps it to the top of the comment section. It's an age-old YouTube internet troll tactic. Don't fall for it. Don't go to the comment section. Not saying you have to look at my face while listening to me. You can listen to my face. You don't have to look at it. You can do other things. Do projects. Retro games. Which is me saying this is not a spoiler review. This is spoiler-free. Enjoy the word vomit coming out of my mouth, my friends. You need not worry here. I am going to address some things that have been shown in the trailer because you can't dance around the villains that are in this movie. There was actually someone at the screening who was like, I haven't seen any of the trailers. I was like, good for you. I kind of envy you. So if you haven't seen the trailers, that's great. But I am going to talk about what the trailer showed in terms of what it means to the plot. So there's that. Anyhow, so Spider-Man No Way Home is the newest Spider-Man movie. And as the trailer showed us, it's bringing a lot to the table. Villains from other Spider-Man movies, from other Spider-Man universes have been brought into this universe. And now Tom Holland's Spider-Man needs to deal with that. First of all, talking about the action, I thought the action was great, especially in my recent rewatch of Spider-Man 2. I love the fact that the Doc Ock arms are just going after Spider-Man. Spider-Man's countering, and then counter-attacking, and the arms are counter-attacking. I was hoping Spider-Man No Way Home captured the spirit of that. It absolutely did, but it's not just Doc Ock. It's like you were watching two top-tier Street Fighter 3 Third Strike fighters go head-to-head at each other. Safe to say, I really dug the action in this movie. Also, the villains. I like what the villains brought to this movie. Granted, they are here for fan service, but it was fan service with a purpose. Or at least more of a purpose than I expected to be in this movie. I thought this movie was going to be like, hey, remember how cool those Raimi Spider-Mans were? We remember too. Jamie Foxx's Electro got a great mulligan. If we're gonna quantify the contrast between great casting for a Spider-Man villain and wasted actor that cast as that Spider-Man villain because he didn't really do what he could have done, Jamie Foxx as Electro, pretty up there. So I was glad he actually had more to do in this movie, you know? They weren't just here for the third act brawl, where it's like, all right, sweet, see you in the third act, because that'll be fun. It'll also make for some sweet trailer shots, you know? It didn't feel that way. I thought they did a surprisingly good job at having this moral dilemma and having Spider-Man and the villains deal with this moral dilemma. In a world where the movie's not 6 hours long or anything, you can't give every villain their shine, but I thought they did a good job at prioritizing what I was going to say the favorites. They're my favorites anyway. They gave the ones I like to see have more to do. Which means, yeah, a couple of the villains, namely, Sandman and Lizard. What can I say? They're the ones who are the bench warmers. Sandman and the Lizard do feel like, yeah, you're here for the third act, so go ahead and warm the benches and we'll call on you when we need you. Go. It's not going to warm itself. Thank you. Thank you. But one of the things that really surprised me about this movie, I felt Spider-Man No Way Home did the best job among the MCU Spider-Man movies anyway. It did the best job at not concentrating on this being a Spider-Man in the world of the MCU. I mean, they still have MCU references. They still acknowledge that this does take place in that world. And at first it felt like, okay, it's another Spider-Man in the MCU. I expected that. You know, he's dealing with Doctor Strange. It felt like another, it's a cinematic universe. It's gonna feel like that. Until this stops feeling like that. At a point, this movie focuses up. It's Spider-Man dealing with Spider-Man villains, which is how I personally like Spider-Man to feel. It's like Spider-Man in his own little sandbox of Spider-Man. It's not like they're like, MCU? What's that? But compared to the other two MCU Spider-Man movies, I thought this did the best job at concentrating on Peter Parker and Spider-Man first and foremost. Granted, it doesn't hurt that he is taking on Spider-Man villains that we have seen before. It's probably a bit of psychological play they're doing here. And also Tom Holland as Spider-Man. At first I was like, Tom Holland, Spider-Man, yeah. And then as time went on, I was like, this dude seems younger than other Spider-Mans. I get Spider-Man is young, but he comes back from being snapped to carbon, and he comes back, he's like, Mr. Stark, there was a wizard, and I was like, you 5? He didn't feel like he was growing up, really. I mean, he had some shit happen to him in the last Spider-Man movie, Far From Home. Almost called it No Way Home. And I also almost called No Way Home Far From Home. But this movie had a surprising amount of emotional depth for Peter Parker to deal with. And I felt Tom Holland did a great job in here. Also makes him feel like, yeah, he's done his rite of passage to feel like a Spider-Man that feels more familiar. I mean, I'm not saying it's the perfect Peter Parker Spider-Man from the PS4 game personified on screen, but I did feel like this was the most mature version of Spider-Man and Peter Parker Tom Holland has played yet. My biggest gripe I have in this movie is my standard, I'm becoming a grumpy ass old man, bah humbug, I'm the Grinch on top of the hill gripe that I have about a lot of MCU things. And that's the balancing of tone. There are some moments where it's like, oh yeah, that seems heavy. That should probably stay for a little bit. Don't go right to the you went to the jokes. It's not just jokes. Sometimes the joke juggling actually does work. Other times I was like, you just compromised the tone. You did that. You did the thing. Example, this movie starts out with some epically dark tone. I was like, oh, okay, here we are. You got us caught up to speed with some voiceover, and now it's going down. Bring on the business. And then jokes and swinging and lighthearted things and more jokes. I was like, oh, okay, fair enough. I mean, it works for them. They make a lot of money. There is a thing that happens in Spider-Man No Way Home that I've seen other movies and TV shows do. We've all seen it. Where there's a character and then out of the blue, they just pull an ability out of their ass and now they can do a thing they've never been able to do before. And they can do it like that. Yeah, that happens in here and it's really glaring and I don't buy it. But for me, for the most part, Spider-Man No Way Home, I had a lot of fun. It is a fan service smorgasbord of Spider-Man versus Spider-Man villains that we've seen in other Spider-Man movies. But I was surprised at what it did for the depth of Peter Parker's character in this movie. And actually what it did for some of the villain characters in this movie that I just expected to come in for the last act to just have a big brawl, have a big fight. It had a bit more than that. I appreciate that. I'm a little biased when it comes to Spider-Man though. I admit that, absolutely. I own all of the Spider-Man movies on 4K. The great, the good, the bad, the middle of the road, I own them all. I'm an optimist. I try to find the best that a Spider-Man movie has to offer. This was a really fun one and I'll end up buying it on Blu-ray or 4K. Or it's a Spider-Man No Way Home. I hope you like it. I was gonna say, have you seen it? What did you think about it? Comment below, let me know, but I'm not going to. Because sending you to the comment section is just dooming you to see spoilers. Don't do that. Don't even go down to the comment section to blindly type in just for the sake of the algorithm. Don't do that. I don't care about the algorithm. I care about you optimally enjoying your entertainment. However, as always, if you like what you've seen here and you want to see more, click right here to see more.